What is up? Welcome back to Ninja Geek Games. We're just about to start mission 3A, the Blockade. Just a quick recap of what happened in mission 2. We started in the evacuation section B after boarding the Nemesis and all power was off. We managed to get to the generator room to turn on all the power. And we had a few tasks to complete before the ship jumped, and we had to get to the cockpit to get some coordinates, download a log in the monitoring room, make sure all the engines were fixed, or at least 2 of them were, and get back to the hibernatorium and jump without being contaminated. Now, for the most part of the game, that went really well. Until we had checked all the engines, we're really on our way back to the hibernatorium, and then one of the engines broke. And whilst going back to try and fix it, we had adults and creepers turn up, then 2 breeders made their way onto the board. And it made things really difficult for the pilot, and she didn't make it. So because of that, what we've done is added another corpse token to the campaign pool, and our new character is the Scout. Now, I've not played as a Scout before, but she can move without making noise rolls, has a decent amount of firepower, can move herself and other characters into other rooms without making an escape roll, and in some rooms can draw additional cards when she searches. So I'm looking forward to playing as this character. So the introduction for mission 3A, which is called the Blockade. I think we've turned up at Mars, and there's lots and lots of ships, nuclear warheads, and frigates surrounding the planet. And it seems that people receiving us are pretty surprised that we're on the Nemesis. And because of our actions in mission 1, where we used our thrusters to burn out the docking bay, it looks like the military are coming after us, which I thought would happen. So for the setup, it says that our task, an EMP blast has knocked out the propulsion system. So we need to go to the engine control room and activate it. And then we need to survive and escape by performing a jump. It says during the game there might be an enemy assault squad on board and the ship might be under fire. So I assume that parts of the ship are going to become damaged. The ship is at least partially explored from the previous mission. And on specific turns, electromagnetic pulses disable all the ship's systems, and the intruder threat is very high. Well, that's not good. So for the setup, we keep the board as it is, and we do not move any rooms or reveal unexplored rooms. We have to reshuffle the engine tokens. We remove all intruder models from the board. Noise markers and corpse tokens are also removed. We add event 8 and on-entry marker on the unexplored room with the highest number. Well, I think it's this one here, that room is number 18. An event token 6 and an on-entry marker goes into the engine control room here. All the characters start in the hibernatorium, and the Scout is this purple model. The time track is set to position 15, -1 for each player. An event token 7 is placed on position 9 of the track. We need to set the injury ammo markers starting on position 12, and then every other token until we get to 4. During those turns, electromagnetic pulses strike the Nemesis and no room actions can be performed, and energy weapons don't work, and both my characters have those weapons. The intruder board, weaknesses and the event deck carry over from previous mission, and we place 3 egg tokens on the intruder board. I'm not sure if that is in addition to what we had already, which was 2. I'm going to assume so we now have 5. For the intruder bag, we have 3 larvae, 3 adults, plus 1 per character, so that's 5. 2 creepers, 1 breeder, 1 queen and 1 blank token. Because we have choice B token in our campaign pool, we have to add events 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 tokens to the intruder bag. And it just says start the mission. So the scientist is the first player. Scientist is going to play interruption. And what they're going to do is use the med kit, because if you remember from the first game, we gained 1 serious wound towards the end of the game that we were able to dress. So they're going to use that med kit to dress the serious wound. So the scientist is now fully healed. For the second action, they will play demolition, and they're going to make their way into... They're going to go to the unexplored room. I think I know this is the cabins because the pilot used her skill in the previous game before she died to look at that. And I'm pretty sure it's cabins. Yep. malfunction token, and the room can be searched 3 times. So the scientist needs to make a noise roll. Corridor 2. So she is going to play demolition and is going to move to the shower room. And her next action, she's going to perform a search. Now, as part of her trait scavenger, she's able to draw 1 item card from each of the item decks, red, green and yellow, and is allowed to pick one of them. And this can only be carried out if she's in a white room. So we have drawn energy charge, military drugs and the duct tape. But I think I'm going to go for the energy charge, because what I can do with that is use it to activate my motion scanner card. And what that does is allow me to re-roll noise rolls. So I think I'll take the energy charges. So the scientists are going to perform a search action. And because they're in a white room, they can choose the colour of the item card. I think I'm going to go red. We have energy, charge and grenade. And I think I'll select the grenades, which allow me to attack adjacent rooms. Second action, they'll play a search card and they're going to move into the generator room. Two again, down to the airlock. So what the scout is going to do is play reconnaissance. What that does is allow her to move to any neighbouring room without making a noise roll. Now it does cost a card, so it's the same cost as making a careful movement, but in a careful movement you have to place a noise token. You just get to choose where it goes, where with reconnaissance you don't place one at all. So she'll move to this room here. Turn this over before I see what the token does. Comms room, where we can send the signal. We then have to look at story event 8, and it says, ever since you boarded the ship, an oppressive sense of deja vu has haunted you, and you're sure you've been here before. You find an ID with your name and your face, and you're wondering what they've done to your head. And it says, if there are fewer than 5 clues in the campaign pool, add 1 clue to the pool. Well, we have 4 at the minute, so we'll add the orange one. And because we've wasted time looking at this ID, we need to discard a card, which was the interruption. So the scientist has 1 card left, and I think what they're going to do is they're going to play intranet to activate their holo computer, which means they can use the intranet and risk assessment action cards from any room on the ship, even if there's a malfunction token in that same room and it doesn't have a computer. So I think that might be quite beneficial on this game. But it does count as 1 heavy item. So that is the end of the round. The time marker moves on to position 12, which removes one of the ammo injury tokens from the track, which we know room actions can be used and energy weapons won't work. There's no intruder attacks or intruder fire damage. And we go straight to resolving 1 event card. And it's called Hunt. Move every adult not in combat to a neighbouring room with a character, if possible. Well, it's not. If there are several rooms to choose from, move the adult to the room with the lowest number. Well, we're safe there because there are no intruders on the board. And now bag development. We've drawn event 1. And events 1 to 5 are the same comic strip, so we'll probably read this a few times during the game. And it says, it looks like there are ships scamming the Nemesis, and it says, I don't know if that's because of Sedna, where you destroyed that docking platform, but it doesn't look like they're planning to take us alive. We need to place a malfunction marker on the lowest numbered explored room that doesn't have one, I'm guessing the cockpit doesn't count because that doesn't count as an explored room. So I'll assume the engine control room. Any character in this room suffers a serious wound unless the character discards an interruption card. And we remove this event token from the game. So this is where our interruption cards are going to come in very, very handy. So I paid the price in the last game for delaying, but if I'm going to head down to here after and try and put out this fire, I'm going to need to find a fire extinguisher. So the comms room has an exploration token that I haven't looked at yet, which is malfunction and one search. So I am going to search with the search card, and I've drawn the tools and the fire extinguisher, which is exactly what I wanted. So I think I have to take the fire extinguisher here. I think that's going to be quite important. And I'll discard the tools. But remember, the fire extinguisher counts as a heavy item. And for her second action, she's going to play basic repairs, which is going to cost me 2 action cards to remove this malfunction token. So the scientist will play a rest card, move to the engine control room. We then have to look at story event number 6 because it's on entry. And it says the good news is there's a manual override port in the engine control room. The bad news, this means we have to run 3 EMP shielded cables through the entire infested ship under heavy fire. I don't know what an EMP shielded cable is. And from now on, every character can place a cable token in every room they visit as a free action, as long as the room is not on fire and has no malfunction markers. And what we have to do is create an uninterrupted line of cable tokens representing the shielded cabling leading from the engine control room to all 3 engine rooms, with at least 2 of them working. So these are the cable tokens, and I need to place them in all the rooms, making sure there's an unbroken chain all the way to the engines. And every time you put a malfunction or fire marker in a room, we have to remove the shielded cabling there. Then we have to place event token 10 and a story triggered marker on the engine control room. And then we can go to event 10 as soon as the shielding cabling line is completed and at least 1 character is in the engine control room. That is one hell of a task. So next up is the noise roll. 1, and that's the corridor that leads to the cockpit. So I think the scout is going to end her turn there because she's got 1 card left. The scientist is the first player on the next round, and she needs to know whether to go to engine control room 1 or 2 first. She can't put a cable in that room because the rules state you have to visit the room, and she's already in that one, so I assume you have to move into the room and then lay the cable. So what I think she'll do instead is play 1 action card, which will allow her to activate the motion scanner. And this means when I can discard 1 action card from my hand to re-roll the result of a noise roll, but I can only do this once per noise roll. So that's the end of her turn. And because she's only played 1 card, she has to pass regardless. So I think what the scientist is going to do is play their repairs card, which I've noticed is actually cheaper than playing the scout's repair card because it only costs 1. I'm going to use computer skills to pay for that cost to get rid of the malfunction token. And this will now allow me to use the engine control room action on the next turn. And for the last action, they will play risk assessment. And what this does is lets me look at the top card of the event deck and decide whether I keep it there or return it. And we have egg protection, which means that each of the characters would resolve an encounter if they were either in the nest or carrying an intruder egg. Well, that won't count for either of the players, so I think I'll keep that on top of the event deck just to keep things quiet. Okay, time counter moves to position 11. We can jump straight to the event deck. We know what that's going to be, which is egg protection, so we can completely ignore that. And for the intruder bag development, we've drawn an adult, which means each of the characters needs to make a noise roll. So the scout is the first player. No noise, excellent. Scientist, I need a 3 or 4. That's good. Okay, the scientist is the first player, and the first thing they have to do is use the room action for the engine control room, which lets me check the state of the engines. I'm going to use that action playing computer skills, which lets me use its computer without paying the action cost of 2. So engine 1 is damaged. Engine 2 working. Engine 3 is damaged. So we need to either fix engine 1 or engine 3. So I was just thinking, if we draw those story tokens from the bag, the engine control room is always gonna, so I'm gonna have to explore the room above, I think, to prevent that always happening. So that's gonna happen another 4 times. So for the next action, they're gonna move into the cockpit using a rest card. Noise roll 4. So the scout's first action, she is going to play reconnaissance and pay for that with adrenaline, which means that I don't have to make a noise roll. Then I can move to the engine room and place a cable token. For her second action, she'll have to play basic repairs, which is going to use her last 2 remaining cards and fix the engines. So they should now be working. So the scientist still has 3 action cards left. First action is to play search, and they're going to move into room 2 at the top. Which is the nest. The bad thing about that is the nest can never have malfunction tokens, so I plan to open up that for absolutely no reason. But I don't perform a noise roll. I have to place a token in each corridor. I think for my second action, I'm going to move away from this area. So I'll play my demolition card, which is going to let me move back into the cabins. Perfect. I'm going to stay there. I do have a repairs card left, but I'm going to keep that to get rid of that malfunction token. Pilot has no turns left, so we will go to the event phase. So we've hit the EMP again on 10 on the time track. We go straight to the events, and we've drawn another hunt card, which is where we move every adult not in combat to a neighbouring room with a character, so we can ignore this again. So this is not too bad. Bag development stage, story event 3. Well, we know what's going to happen here. We have to place a malfunction token in the lowest explored room, and any character in that room would take a serious injury, and that gets removed from the game, and the pilot now becomes the first player. So I'm in 2 minds of what to do with the scout. I could come along here, put out the fire, because if that fire spreads it's going to start ruining my cables. or I could go up to engine 2, stick some cabling in there, and then make my way down to the lab again after. The thing is, if I make 2 moves down to here, I'll take a light wound, because then that's my 2 actions. So I think I'm going to play a rest card, move back to the comms, make a noise roll, which is where I'm going, put some cable down. I'm now deciding whether to do a careful movement into engine number 2 or risk just playing 1 card and having a 50-50 chance of not taking on an encounter. I'm going to try risking 1 card so I can move about a bit more. So I'll play Demolition, move into the engine room, make a noise roll, need a 3 or 4. That's lucky. Place another cable. And that's her 2 actions done. So the scientist is going to play repairs, pay for that with interruption to get rid of the malfunction token. I've just got a bad feeling with all the event tokens. I think there's 3 of them still in the intruder bag. We could end up with a lot of malfunction tokens on the board, which would cause the ship to explode even before we could try and lay those cables. For the second action, they are going to search. We're going to take 2 red items again. And we have a pistol and energy charge. And the pistol's a heavy weapon, and I've already got my Halo computer. So I think I'll take the energy core. So the scout should play interruption. She's then going to move out of the engine room, back into the comms room. She gets 4 on her noise roll. So that's here. Just trying to think where to move to next. She could play her scavenging card, which lets her basically do a search action. But she can do that even if the counter is at 0, as it is in the comms room. That would use all my cards, and I'd still be 3 rooms away from the lab to put out that fire. So she'll use that card instead to make a move action. Where does 4? Oh, 4 goes into the technical corridor, and she will place cable. Not sure what to do with a scientist. I don't think there's any point coming down here, because it's likely that room would have a malfunction token, and then I'd take a serious wound for being in that room from the story events in the intruder bag. So what I'll do is use blocking access to make a move action into the hibernatorium. And I'll place a cable there. I think they're going to end their turn there. So the scout has got 1 more action left. So she will play search. She's going to move down into the monitoring room. Not that I really need to, but I'm going to place a cable there just in case. Roll for noise. Which is where I'm heading next. Okay, over to the event phase. We hit turn 9, so we have to now reveal story event 7. And I've got a bad feeling about this. And it shows a group of Marines, and it says, okay boys, the mission is search and destroy, and the captain is saying everything that moves. So we have to place a Marine token on the cockpit, and at the end of each turn, after the event phase, we move the Marine squad 1 space in the direction of the closest character or intruder. And if there are multiple choices, the first character will choose. Well, that'll be me anyway. If the Marine squad enter a room with a character, that character suffers 1 serious wound. moves to any adjacent room and rolls for noise. If the Marine squad enters a room with intruder, or vice versa, we go to event 9, and the Marine squad ignores fire, malfunctions, closed doors, and the airlock procedure. So event cards, and it says coolant leak, and if there's a malfunction marker in the generator room, start the self-destruct countdown. Well, there's not. We're lucky there, but we remove this card from the game, and we have to reshuffle the event deck. And that includes the discard pile. Intruder bag development. Each character needs to make a noise roll. Starting with the scout. 1. Now I've been very, very lucky with my rolls so far. Scientist. Incredibly lucky. But all this means is that at some point there's going to be so much noise on the board that really every move is going to generate an encounter. Now I guess the Marines move now. They can come to here or up to the nest. So I'll put them up in the nest for now. So the scientist is the first player. I think I might have them make their way to engine room 3 because that area still needs cables. So I think the first action they'll do is a move action, play computer skills, and they're going to move to the canteen. They need to make a noise roll. 3. Now that is into the technical corridor, and there is already a token there, which means we're going to have an encounter. We've drawn another event story token. Now that's not a bad thing because it means there's 2 left in the bag. I'd rather that those tokens get taken out the bag, because the sooner they are, the sooner I can start placing the cables leading to the engine room. And at the minute I'm delaying that because I know they're just going to get destroyed by these malfunction. So it's not the end of the world. Now technically the lowest numbered room would be the nest, but the nest can't hold any malfunction tokens, and I'm still unsure if the cockpit counts. Technically it's an explored room, but I haven't explored it. So as I said, just keep me posted in the comments just for future games. So this will go into the cabins, and I would have liked to have put a cable token into that room, but the canteen has a malfunction token as well. So for the next action, I'm going to search. And the reason is I don't have any med kits or anything that's going to help with contamination or injuries. So we've only got 1 search left in the canteen. And I've drawn a med kit and synthetic food. Now the med kit lets me dress and heal serious injuries, but the synthetic food, that lets me draw 2 action cards. I'm quite tempted with that actually. Yeah, I'll take the synthetic food. Just hope I don't live to regret that decision. So I'll play an adrenaline card, move to the lab, and I'm going to use my fire extinguisher to put out the fire. I know the scientist is up near the fire control system, but I want him to get to the engine room as quickly as possible. So the scout will use basic repairs as a cost for the fire extinguisher to put out the fire. But she needs to make a noise roll first, sorry. Over to the scientist. They are going to play rest, and they can use that as a cost for the tools to get rid of the malfunction token. I've been quite lucky in this game. because I haven't had any intruders come up yet. I mean, I'm 5 turns in, but there are a lot of noise tokens on the board, so I don't think it's going to be long. And for the next action, the scientist is going to play intranet, and I'll move to the surgery, make a noise roll, 2, and it goes into the engine room that I'm going into. But they will place some cable there just in case. We're going to play a search card, and we'll look to search for the last time in that lab. She has drawn, she's also drawn medkit and synthetic food. I think she's going to take the medkit. We don't have one. And I think at least one of the characters needs to have one. For her second action, we'll play reconnaissance. I'm going to use that card as a move action, not for its special ability. And that's because Corridor 4 and the Technical Corridor are free of noise tokens. And I wish I had. There's a token in the 2 corridor. I've rolled a 2, which attracts an intruder, and there'll be an encounter. So we have drawn an adult. And there's going to be a surprise attack because she only has 1 card remaining in her hand. So we draw an intruder attack, and we have Frenzy. There's no adult symbol there. We have a breeder and a queen. So we can ignore that card. There is no surprise attack. Now I could have the scientist move into the engine room now to place some cable, but I think I'm going to wait there because the last card in my hand is risk assessment. I'm going to want the scout to move away from the adult intruder, and I'll need to know the chances of that adult following her into the airlock room. So we'll play risk assessment, and my holo computer lets me use that in a room without a computer, which is really lucky. And the event card is egg hatchings. Now there are no adult movements on that card. You do have to place a larva miniature in each room with an egg token or the nest. The Marines are there. So I'm hoping the Marines will either attack the larva or the larva attack the Marines. So I'm going to keep that one on top. So the scientists only played 1 card, that's their last card, they're going to pass. So the scout has 1 card left. Now I could use that as a shoot action, which will cost me an ammo. I've got a 50-50 chance of hitting the adult with a 1 in 6 chance of causing 2 damage. I very much doubt that would be enough to kill it, and I'd be very lucky if I got a retreat action. So that is going to cost me 1 ammo. I get to move to the room without triggering an attack. But I still need to make a noise roll. Now I still have my motion scanner, which means I can re-roll noise rolls, but I've got no action cards left to do so. So I've rolled a 2. Yep, there's going to be another encounter. We have drawn another story event. So thankfully, there's only 1 of those left, which means our chances are looking a little bit better than they were. After the cabins, the next lowest explored room number is 07, the generator, which is just above where the scout is now. And that's not bad actually, because I've removed all the noise tokens, had an encounter, and drawn that token instead. So event phase. So we go on to turn 8, which means an EMP is hit. We don't need to do fire damage or intruder attacks because I managed to move away from the adult. We know what the event card is going to be. And that's eggs hatching. The intruder doesn't move. And we need to place a lava miniature in each room with an egg token. There aren't any. But we do place one lava miniature in the nest. So this goes up to there. And then if you remember, when the Marines were first placed on the board, if the Marine squad enters a room with an intruder or vice versa, we need to go to event number 9. And it said, both sides mean business, the entire ship is shaken. Normally I'd be worried, but all this uproar seems to draw the creatures towards the battle, which is good for us. And we need to remove all noise markers from the board. Okay, that's a good start. So the board is silent once again. Spoke too soon. Place noise markers in all corridors leading to the room with the Marine squad. If the Marine squad was fighting a queen or a breeder, remove the squad from the board. Whether or not it's a measly lava. Otherwise, remove the intruder. And that lava didn't last long. Intruder bag development stage. An adult, so we all need to make a noise roll. Scientist was the first player, so they'll roll first. No noise, excellent. Scout, number 2. Okay, the last part of the event phase is to move the Marine squad, and I need to move it towards the nearest character or intruder. It looks like I've got 2 options here. So 1, 2, 3 takes it to my character, and if I go the other way, 1, 2, 3, it's the same distance, and I can choose. So I'll have them move to the cabins. So what we're going to do here is stop the video. This is going to be part 1 of mission 3. We'll resume again in the next video, part 2, where we need to continue to place those cables to make an unbroken chain to the engine room. This is Ninja Geek Games. Thanks for watching.